This is best-selling author Chris Therien, and you're watching Nasty Knuckles.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
What's up, Rigaralia?
Looking pretty jacked today.
Jacked? I don't think so. I hope the cameras look like that, because I've been seeing myself lately going, "Oh,
Looking all swole.
maybe throw a workout in there, Nast."
Yeah?
No, I just started though. I got back at it.
Hey, did you? Yeah?
Yeah, I did. Maybe that's why I'm so jacked today.
Yeah, we look at
Yeah, right.
chest is all
these,
puffy.
These got garter snakes. These
thighs are
garter
all
snakes.
swollen.
My fucking garter snakes. Garter snakes. My biceps have never been swollen. I can guarantee that, unless I got hit or something. I don't know. But hey, man, missed you again at men's league. So just want to throw that. Oh yeah, we had a bye week. I didn't even tell you that.
Oh, yeah, so I felt
Yeah,
bad.
You should.
I was in Miami,
You made
dude.
2 games out of 10.
Well, life gets in the way, you know?
Oh my God, men's league's more important.
I know. I wish I
I'm
could
kidding.
make more games.
We are
I
back
travel
at
an
it.
hour to play men's league, dude,
Oh, here we go.
with my kids.
Well, listen, we didn't know where they were last time.
Well,
For a while.
they were eating a little
running
salad
the
upstairs.
They were
Vegetable
running
salad.
Dunlops.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, man. No, Jim Boucher's up there, like, trying to figure out who these 2 young ladies are running the show.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, back at it this week with the boys. I don't even know who we play, but we're back at it. Anyway, Fly Boys looking good. Last 2 games, even Baller had just said, and Debo woke up from a nap and agreed that the last 2 games were actually were really good. That win in Ottawa was impressive. How about G? Of course, scoring against the old team. It always
2
happens.
minutes in.
It always happens. 2 minutes in, but and his
goal.
300th goal. Congrats,
Yeah,
G.
absolutely. Congrats, G.
Big accomplishment. And you know, the win this week against the Blues, our good buddy Chief. I wish he could have at least won in Boston.
Yeah.
You know, if and not win last night, but they've lost 8 in a row. But the Flyers looked really good last night, and they worked their asses off, which they have all year.
Yeah.
But they really looked good last night.
They did. Yeah, we were at the game.
Yeah.
You had Elvie, had my 2 girls.
Well,
one fell asleep.
she didn't see it. I didn't see much of the game.
But it was funny, listening to them talk. They were talking about shots on net being, the currency of winning the game, and Flyers were out shooting the Blues. Obviously, a good chunk of the first half of the game there, which we landed up leaving halfway through. But actually, we didn't see one goal. As soon as we walked out of the building, all the goals started coming. But the effort, the opportunities. I mean, the Flyers looked good.
They did.
They look crispy and. Energy. Well, I thought the energy in the building could have been a little bit better, but that was before the goals. I think
I agree, and it did get better once they started scoring.
Right.
We saw a couple scraps right away.
Yeah, a couple
Braden
Tillies.
Shin was trying to get his team going. The leader he is. Nick Seeler's a tough customer.
Yeah.
We've seen that. That was interesting, and then one of the funny things also was as soon as that fight was over, I watched Bartuzzo jump over the bench, and I saw him skate by our boy Big Mac, and you could tell I didn't know exactly what he's saying, but he looked at him, and then Mac shook his head. Yeah. So I said, Elvis, pay attention. They're going to fight. And, they fought. It wasn't much when they fell quickly, but Elvis was like, how did you know they're going to fight? How did you know? Like, pay attention, boy.
Watch the
you
game.
Should be watching instead of Snapchatting girls.
Yeah, IG Live.
Yeah, IG Live. I haven't let him go in there in a while.
Jeez.
Thank God he doesn't have a lot of people following.
No kidding, right?
Jeez.
But that would have been a nice time to go IG Live.
It would have been.
A couple Tillies. Big win.
But, the identity they're creating.
Yeah.
And that's
it's for real.
We talked about. It is for real. You can just see it. You can tell when a team's like gelling and coming together, and talking to a couple of the guys this week. You know, they're doing everything together.
Yeah.
And that's so big, and people can say it's cheesy. It's not. That's what builds a team, and it's really cool to see. And you're seeing it on the ice.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 100%.
Can't deny it.
Yeah, you can't deny it. Yeah, you know, we talked about, you know, they possibly won a few games they shouldn't have. You know, Carter Hart's bailing them out, but you know, that team collective, that energy, that identity they're creating, everything you're alluding to is for real. Whether they can sustain this or not is the question. But you know, I think the foundation has been laid nicely. Obviously, they're buying into Torts and his system, and buying into the collective as a team. So you know, from a perspective, you know, a fan's perspective, I'm happy with it, right? I mean, it's beyond my expectations of the season so far. It's still early, obviously, so we'll see where this goes. But the fans got to be happy with
you would think so,
the direction and what's happening. So
yeah, it's funny. Like they've been kind of caught in the Phillies storm,
right.
and the Eagles as well. Because I mean, like, the Eagles haven't lost a game. Knock wood. Sorry, boys. I don't want to jinx you. So it's always tough early, but this start's good, and I think people are taking notice to it. And, you know, TK's playing well. Hayes is playing well. The guys you really need with Coots being out, and Atkinson. And JVR with his finger. You almost forget, like, we're missing three top line guys, at least top six players on the team.
Yep.
And Tippett, since he's come back, he's played really well. Boy, he could shoot a puck,
he can.
man.
Yeah.
Wow, he can really shoot it. So it's been fun to watch, just the effort and everything, and it's nice to see him getting rewarded with it.
Yep, 100%. They're gonna have to find a way to keep scoring goals, right? They're the bottom three goals for in the league. 5 goals last night, which is an exception to the rule here with them. But they're gonna have to find ways to continue to score by committee, because as we know, they don't have that the goal scorer, that elite player to always lean on to squeeze out a goal every other game. I think that's going to continue to be challenging for them to score goals.
Yeah.
But they're finding a way. I think that's what good teams do. They find a way, whatever that looks like, scoring by committee. But it'd be nice to get Atkinson and a couple of these guys back in the lineup just to help. Obviously donate to the offense.
Right.
But, that being said, it could take away from some of the essence that's going on too. You never know how that plays out, right? I mean, there's some intangibles about having a young guy that's a spirited, energetic guy in the lineup, contributing that way versus being more of an offensive guy leaning on for point production. But we'll see how that plays out. And our good friend Giroux's back in town this weekend.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
So,
Claude makes his first appearance in a different uniform.
Yeah.
In the Wells Fargo Center. So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, look forward to seeing him. And then our buddy Kubel.
Too bad he was not with Washington. He got picked up off of waivers by the Caps. Too bad he wasn't there a couple weeks ago, because he would have got a chance to feel this Tovey, which he still will.
Yep, we'll be back in Wash, but it would have been nice to see him.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him.
I say I'm surprised or not surprised that he got thrown on waivers. Cube's one of those guys that, I think that when teams go through little droughts, he's kind of like becomes, I say, the scapegoat, but the guy that's kind of highlighted as, do we move this guy or whatnot? He's been in that position a couple times in his career. But wish him the best. The guy can skate, he's strong, he can shoot. I think just like he did in Colorado, he found his groove, he found his lane he needs to stay in. Obviously, Toronto was struggling a little bit. They're right there with the rest of them now, but he lands up taking some bit of a fall. But wish him the best there in Wash. I think he'll be able to contribute there.
Don't worry, Cube. We'll get a Tovey in your hand in a few weeks.
We will. We'll be back. I think we're ready to rock, Nast.
Well, let's do it.
Episode 93. Can you believe it?
Wow, 93. Oh, Jakub Voracek's number.
Yeah.
Nasty Bear.
Absolutely. Episode 93 presented to you by our good friends at Curaleaf. Welcome to Curaleaf, a medical marijuana dispensary. Whether you're a long-time patient or you're just getting acquainted with this incredible plant, Curaleaf of Pennsylvania is honored to guide you along your medical marijuana journey. Have questions? Google Curaleaf PA, stop by one of our 18 locations across the Commonwealth, or visit curaleaf.com/locations.
Locations.
Let's go, Nast.
Let's do it.
Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre. And this week, we would love to welcome back our good friend and best-selling author, Mr. Chris Therien. I like to call him Dog. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? Always great to be on with you guys. Yeah, I love the best selling. You guys can sell that all you want. It's fine. Anytime, you know, that's what I love when
Smoke and mirrors, Bundy.
Yeah, right. You know, but it's funny. Anytime someone like you see like somebody write a book and they're like, "Oh, best-selling author," I'm like, "How do I know it's a best-selling author?"
Right?
So everybody that has a book's a best-selling author.
I said it, so you are.
Right,
it's official.
Right, that's official now.
Yeah, you put it out there.
Great to be here, guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
Appreciate your time, man. Busy on your book run. You're all over the United States here. Pushing this thing.
Yeah, I mean the first actually this week I got a couple of events that start. You know, with the Phillies in the World Series, it was you know, the book came out I think it was October 25th. I think it was the actual release date. So we've had, you know, good past 2 weeks now of it being out on Amazon or Triumph Books or Barnes and Noble, wherever you get it. And it's been interesting because the Phillies, you know, how we're doing so well, and I plan to kind of execute when the date came out, but you know what? There's nothing you can do when a team is in a deep run and then get to the World Series. So I was thrilled that the Phillies did so well and the city had such an amazing time with that. But now it'll be time to kind of getting out and doing some of the mandatory book signings that I have to do. But in general, you know, I'm going to go to like Dagwood's Pub in Northeast Philly to start it. It's funny, people are like, "Why are you going to a pub?" You know, well, I don't drink anymore, so I'm pretty good about that myself, going to a bar, but that's not my issue anymore. But I figured, like, you know what, Northeast Philly Bar is exactly the kind of place that I would like to go and get a book signing started, and I think that's exactly the kind of person I am, but that's the kind of people that I seem to mesh well with, and you know, that's Philadelphia at its rawest form. That's where you get the sports fans and stuff. So I'm pretty happy about that, and now you know, with extra time, I can start getting out to a couple Barnes and Nobles and local places just to meet and greet people and talk about the book a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Beautiful, yeah. What's the process of writing a book like? I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? I mean, you got a crazy story, you know, road to redemption. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you know what, guys? Actually, when I came on with you guys, probably might have been, I guess it was 2021, beginning of 2021, when I kind of came out with my story. And what happened was it coincided with me being asked by Triumph Books. They'd asked me many times before, and I think, you know, like 3 or 4 times if I'd be interested in doing a book. I think they like taking athletes that played a certain duration in a city and then doing a regional sports story on it. And they, you know, I guess they'd heard through people that there was, you know, me or Ron Hextall that they'd wanted to have do a book. I was a character in the room, probably have good stories to tell. So I finally decided, you know, when the Flyers canned me and I wasn't doing the NBC stuff anymore, that it would be the right time to take for myself to kind of put on paper what my journey in life was like for just the ordinary guy out there, because that's what I was. You know, I had gone through so much, I think, in terms of me getting as a young teenager to find the fortitude and the attitude to stay with hockey. I wasn't 6'5", you know, 250 at the time. I was a smaller guy, and I grew later. But I stayed with it. And I was lucky I had my dad. My parents stuck with the belief that my dad had seen enough. You know, they say when you see somebody at like 12 or 13, you get an idea of how they'll be later. And I'm just lucky my dad didn't give up on me. I quit hockey at 14 for a year.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah. And you know what? There are stories. I think you hear a little bit more of them in football. But I love telling minor hockey parents, like, get your kid away from the rink sometimes.
Yeah,
like it's so important, because you know, all those things you're doing, you're pushing these kids every single day. It's almost like you need the computer to program itself, and then remember that stuff. When you keep pushing the kid back to the rink, all you're doing is the physical skills, and you're not allowing any of that mental or the emotional part of the game to crawl in your space. So I actually think that year off was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I got away from a lot of the garbage that I was going through in Ottawa. I think it was like a political hotbed of hockey, you know, whose dad was doing business with whose dad, and that got the kid on the game, which is just total bullshit.
Yeah.
And I still see it now. And you know, it's funny, I talked to my dad about that, and you know, there's other good players in Ottawa. Like, I'd say the 2 best players probably in the city of Ottawa at the 71 birthdays were ironically me and Sean O'Donnell.
Wow. Odie.
Yeah, and Odie. And it's funny. I played. We're the same age, and I played like a couple of years before Sean made it, and he ended up playing longer than I did. He got in the right teams, right situation. He was a long tenured guy. But it's funny how you could say that at 10 years old, and then when you look at the kind of the conventional map of who ended up going to longer, it was me and Odie.
Wow.
At the time. There were other good players too. The Rivers, Jamie Rivers was 2 years younger than us. He played many games for Boston in the league. His brother Sean as well for Tampa played one game. But again, I skied for a year, so I love telling that story. People don't believe it, but yeah, I did not play hockey for an entire calendar year at 14.
Yeah, that's actually pretty amazing back then to do that, and understand where your head's at, and feel recognize that you're feeling burnt out and taking that year off. I think
I got cut.
Oh, you got cut.
I got cut from two teams, and I'm just like, this is, I guess, not in the cards. I was, you're a kid, you want to be with your friends, and then you realize that you've been alienated for whatever reason. I remember my buddies now tell me, like, people say when they look back and go, do you remember, like, someone say, the most criminal thing I've ever seen happen to a parent now is like 75 is like, I remember that Therien kid got cut. and so you hear stories like that. It makes me kind of laugh a little bit, but it also vindicates my dad for having enough belief in me and then getting me out of that. Dude, you call Ottawa a hockey hotbed. I think it was a mess. It was an absolute hockey mess. Everybody pushing their kids in directions to get to the NHL instead of worrying about just having fun, getting yourself to college. There was different beliefs, but my dad was vindicated through when I went to Northwood. I mean, I took a road that was completely off the beaten path. Talk about taking the road less traveled. That was the road so less traveled there wasn't even any horse track marks on it, and it ended up working. And now when you look back now, I mean, I look at Northwood now. And I see the kids of NHL guys I played with, Ron Hextall's kids, Shell Samuelson's kids have gone to Northwood. Maybe not because I went there, but because it was a great option to get them out of some of these cesspools of hockey and these junior programs and to give these kids a chance to actually flourish. What I loved with Northwood was you're on the ice 2 hours a day. You can't recreate that in any way. You're just skating all day long. You're 2 hours of hard practice and you're moving, and that's where you hone your skills. And that's when I started when I was, 15, turning 15 of 1987. And so I just, when I came back, I just remember loving hockey so much.
Amazing.
Loved it. Like, it was I couldn't wait to go to the rink to practice every day. And that was kind of Northwood, but that was also kind of me breaking out of my shell. I wasn't 5'8", like 175 anymore. I ended up, 6'3", 205, and I was growing, and I became faster and bigger than the other kids, and that's what happened in a league that was, in a sport that was really more conducive to bigger people in the late 80s and 90s. There used to be that thing where they said they'd never draft anybody under 6 feet tall, which is ridiculous because we've seen how good some smaller players are, and certainly now the way the game's played.
Yeah. No doubt. I was going to say, in modern times, a player taking a year off would probably be a foreign thing. But I would say, like, the amount of time these players spend on hockey specific now versus back in the day, probably more rounded athletes. Maybe talk to that point on, like, the mental state of these young hockey players and the pressure that the parents generally put on them to succeed.
I put it in my book, and I'm sure someone has brought it up to me. I basically generalized and called hockey parents stupid. Yeah. They are. Yeah, and I think the ones that are not realistic about what they're seeing.
Exactly.
The hardest part was saying, and I've been around every parent, guys. Like, I've been around, my daughters have all played Division I basketball. I've been around basketball parents. I've been around football parents now with junior. I've never seen I don't see anything in those sports like there is in hockey.
Really?
Now, I often said, like, someone says, well, why do you think that is? Honest to God, I have a few theories on it. It costs a lot of money, and I think in a certain set that there's a parent out there that actually believes his son is entitled to a piece of that ice because of the money they pay. If your kid's just not good, maybe you should be playing another sport.
Yeah.
That's the hard realization, is that people can't take a good look at themselves in the mirror and understand that maybe it's not for their kid.
That's a good point.
It really is,
and
the
amount of money invested. Yeah, you just think that all of a sudden you're entitled to something.
I coached for 4 years, the AAA. And Chris was okay. Like, he was still a growing. Like, I'm not going to say he wasn't even close. He was a kid that was still growing. He was a slow footer type of kid, a lot like I was, except he was taller, bigger than I was at like 12. I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about a 12-year-old kid in hockey. But anyway, I would have parents, that that had every answer.
Yeah.
Not all of them, some of them. So when I did say parents and hockey parents are stupid, some of them are. And unfortunately, it's the ones that, I don't know, maybe something eluded them in their own past as an athlete where they're trying to.
That way.
Yeah, right, that's what it is, yeah.
You know, with Elvis playing, I see it from other teams that we're playing. You hear parents and you're like, they're mites. They're 7
Yeah, they're living vicariously.
They're not
going to
get drafted this year.
I tell parents that. They think their kids are going to play in the NHL tomorrow and they're 12 years old.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Delusion.
Yeah, and so that's part of it, or I hear like little Johnny's dad, Bob. Boy, Bob was a really, really good hockey player, and he just didn't make it. And now I'm realizing, well, little Johnny's paying for that right now.
Right. Like a life sentence.
I hear parents, and you know what? I think some of it you're so competitive. Like, I'll get on Elvie, and then I'm like, he's 8. He just turned 8. What am I doing? I don't want to make it not fun for him. But some of the times you hear these parents, and I'm like, what's the car ride like? Going home. Like, it's that bad there in front of people. What's it like on the way home? And I'm like, it kind of puts me back. Let me take a step back.
Yeah,
because,
right.
you want them to play the best they can, but Elvis just turned 8.
You got to have fun. Man.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
My son packed it in on hockey, and I think it was a COVID. They lost a year of development. Really, they did. I think there's going to be that 2 years. The kids were getting changed in the back of vans and stuff.
Right.
They were sneaking them in rinks.
Like, I remember I went was Christopher's like last year, and he's played like a level down just to play because they were I was trying to figure out what rinks would allow them in there without having to go through like 19 tests. And, the coaches are wearing masks on the bench and everything, kids. And so I'm like, you know what? He said, Dad, and now Chris is 15, and he's 6'5", 230.
Wow.
And that was an easy call for me to say, you know what? It might be a better thing for him to play football. And he loves it.
Great.
He's happy. He smiles. He comes home happy every day. And I know that he can, with that sport, he can control the effort because his physical abilities will take care of themselves if he wants to put the work in, instead of me pressuring him to play a sport of hockey that maybe he doesn't love or is behind the ball at, quite honestly, at this point. I want him to go to college. That's all I want my kids. Go to college, have fun, but make sure you're enjoying your sport.
Yeah, really good point. And your story is really about resilience, right? From a young youth hockey player, and then playing pros, and then in your afterlife of hockey, right? Your post career. Talk about that, and some of the demons you faced and how you're able to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, my story's pretty public now, but alcohol was my demise. And right, I played with you my last year, and I was struggling so bad that year. I was going through. I was my own personal demons. I tried to hide what I could from everybody. Derek, you were there too. Yeah. No alcoholic wants to say, especially at like 34 years old, like I'm really bitten by this. And it was years, probably years in the making. I can safely say, and I tell everybody this, the only year that was like that was my last year after the lockout, where I felt like I was really owned by the disease of alcoholism, and I wasn't myself. The years before that, I was, I'd get out there, and I was a drinker. There's nights I'd party, but I came to play. I wasn't afflicted by the withdrawals and the other things that come with it, and the demons that come with it. So my career ended in 2006. I'd lost my sister that year to a heart ailment we did not know about. It was a sudden cardiac death in 2006 at the very height. I mean, I couldn't have been more at the height of my alcoholism when that happened. She's my only sister, someone who wanted me desperately to get sober. And that was really, I think, where my story in and of itself kind of took off, from a point like, man, I'm low. I had nothing. I lost my teammates. I lost everything I'd had, in a sense, because, I was the guy in the room. And you guys probably could attest to it. I loved coming to being with my teammates. Yep. I loved that more than anything. And I went out of my way as a guy who'd still play 20 minutes a night to still try to be somebody in the room, to keep it loose, to keep it so guys are able to play and not get inside themselves too much. I took great pride in that for many years, to be a good all-around locker room guy, but also a good player on the ice too, to what best of my abilities. And I was taken apart by that, and I lost my sister. I went to a rehab. I went to Caron Recovery Center in Wernersville, Pennsylvania, where I do work now. Which is amazing. I'm coming full circle, and I'll talk about that. But these are things that I had to get down into the worst mud in the ground that I've ever been in. And I had to self-reflect. Like, I was alone 30 days. My sister was dead 2 weeks before. I'm in a rehab. I'm rooming with a 20-year-old kid. I just played 12 years in the NHL. My career was over. Diana, my wife, was pregnant with Christopher at the time. I had 3 little girls who I loved more than anything, and I knew that I just could not be that person. So I went in, I came out, I got 2 years, and that's kind of where my journey started. I was lucky enough at the time to have had really good people like Peter Luco, Paul Holmgren, who just got the job, Sean Tilger, and they gave me a chance to do radio. You know, I was doing pre and post game, and what a great opportunity, just from being a guy I was in the room that liked to speak over the years and said, you know, give this guy a chance, you know. And they were making changes anyway.
Yep.
But that wasn't the end of my alcohol journey. You know, as I went through it, I slipped up again in about 2008. And very quietly, never to the level. See, where I went in the rehab, guys, where I went in is I can't explain the level, how high my level was. Like when I went away, I was a .63. When people understand what blood alcohol level is, I mean, that's a world record. Yeah. Nobody lives past a .4. And I was standing, like walking, talking, breathing like I am right now. I would have looked. They'd been like, there's no way that guy could possibly, but I was. Wow. And so when I went back out again, I had to pick my spots. I was doing radio. We had like, say the Flyers had like 3 days off or somewhere. I'd go out one night and then kind of revert back just to, you know, behaving myself. But it didn't, and that didn't take up a whole lot of time, but it got tiring for me. And it was like I said, February 7th, 2011 is the day that I put it down for good. It was nothing. There was no divine intervention. It was something, but maybe there was something. Woke me up at like 6 a.m. and said, you know what, you're gonna do this right now. You're gonna figure it out, and you got too many people that count on you. And so that's where the story came about, where I just said, like, this is enough. Enough's enough, and people deserve far better than what I'm giving them, especially my kids. And so that's where I made the decision that day that I was going to put the work in. I was going to get around people that I probably partied with once that are sober also, and that's where the day changed from then. And it's been a lot of perseverance has been very much part of my story, guys, my whole life. You know, whether making it to the NHL, finding a way to stay, but then this has been certainly my hardest, most difficult achievement was to get sober, stay sober, do the right things, be the right person, give back to people that are struggling. And I've done that for years, but it wasn't until 2021 when things changed in my life that I said, you know what, to do the brave thing, you have to do the hard work, and that's to be able to strip yourself of who you are. And because ultimately, when you get sobriety, you have to hold it, and to hold it, you have to give back. And that's the message. And to let other people know struggling, like, it's okay. You're not a loser. I don't think of myself as a loser. I'm thinking of somebody that had a life experience, right? And I got through it. And and then part of my story is pulling yourself out of that gutter. Life's fucking hard sometimes. Yeah. And you know what? And nobody has a perfect life. So anyone that says, oh, he struggled with that. Everybody has something wrong and with them, and it's what you're able to do to try to better whatever that is that ails you, but also to be a better person in the process. And I think that's what I've tried to do. So when I openly tell people all the time, if you need help, call me. Reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. And you know what? People are starting to do it. It's starting to resonate more. I have a lot of aftercare facilities in the city that I support. I think rehabs are great. When I get people that they're willing to go away for 30 or 60 days, I send them to Karen in Wernersville. And when they get out, there's so many great aftercare places, and that's where the part for me, which was so important, was to put more of an emphasis on aftercare, so people can. They got to live again. When you're in a rehab for 30 days, you're safe. Everybody's in there, and you're all rah, and we're getting sober. But when you get out of there, it's about 1 out of 10 people that make it, in terms of rehab. And then there's relapses. I didn't make it my first time. I was not a first-time winner. But that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. That's relapse sometimes is very important in terms of the long process. Yep. I tell them it's not a requirement. Trust me, you're going to get the same answer. You don't need to do it because you're going to find out exactly what I found out time and time again, that nothing changes. It doesn't matter. I am who I am, and I will always revert. If I took one drink today, and that's the part for me now, is I have to hold on to it with everything I have. One drink will ruin everything that I've done to this point. So I have to be aware of that, and I'm guarded against it every day. Mm-hmm. I can still be the same person I am. I still have a ton of fun. I love to go golf, and I love hanging out with you guys, any group of people. Right. I love spending time with them. My kids now respect me, and those are the best parts of life. I'm able to be the genuine person I always wanted to be, and not be the one that was controlled by the demons of alcohol. But it's been a long time now, come up on 12 years. So, but I'm still, every day I still make amends, and every day I try to be a better person. It's not perfect. I don't have a perfect life. I still have many other issues and shit that goes on, and like we all do. But what's good when where my story is, where someone maybe listening to this hears, is that it doesn't involve alcohol anymore. So for me, whatever problem is there, can be handled accordingly. Because I don't have to fall back on that stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. And the story of hope for sure.
Yeah, and that is right. And that's the end. Like, that's the part, is that if you are struggling, I tell you, I did this. And if I believe I did this, anybody can do it. So if you're struggling, believe in yourself, and then believe in that there are people out there that want you to be well and want you to be the best version of yourself. And the biggest lie that I hear people say all the time about alcohol is, I'm never going to have fun without it.
Yeah,
that is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. And I'm telling you, from someone that used to say, I can't live without alcohol. I was like that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine ever sipping it again. And I can't begin to tell you the amount of fun I have without it, because I have tons of it.
Yeah. Not to mention remembering your nights and remembering the experience, because you're actually more present, right? I mean,
I've woken up feeling like crap quite a few mornings in my life. But I don't have that anymore. You know, if I wake up in the morning feeling hungover, it's because I had too much ice cream the night before.
Yeah, right. Ice cream hangover.
That's it. You know.
Yeah, no doubt. Man. You know, a lot of guys struggle with what you've gone through, right? Alcoholism and just addiction in general. Say just in the hockey bubble. Mm-hmm. You know, how much of this is stemming from, you know, the culture of hockey, especially in the past when it was, you know, heavily self-medicating with alcohol, right? And I think things have transitioned. There's more plant-based medicine, cannabis, and other alternatives now. Talk to that versus just like being a micro of the macro problem, because I think the culture of hockey has probably been the root cause of a lot of guys' issues to some degree. You want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a guy that ever throws anybody under the bus, but if you think that I'm a lone wolf in this,
no, that's my point.
There's fucking legions of us. You know, I mean, and I'm not saying like misery likes company. I don't. I wish no one had this, and I wish I was the only one to take the hit for everybody and say, guys, trust me.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, this is a very, very. I don't want to say. I hate to say a problem, because I look at the hope end of it. But you're right, Riley. There's a culture that came with this league that's gone back. You know, some 100 years.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, the culture of the game was, you know, go out, you know, play hard, work hard, and you got a night out in the team, go out and drink beers with your buddies.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I was raised in that culture.
Sure.
You know, small town Ottawa, cold winters. My dad, you know, be a good teammate, you know, do the right things for your teammates, and, you know, have a beer after the game with them. But don't ever do drugs, they'll kill you. Yeah. And I lived by those standards.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know, totally, I did. And so, you know, I guess the culture of the sport caught up. You know, I think having one or two beers after a game became a lot easier to have 3 or 4.
Sure.
And, you know, alcoholism is a progressive disease. It gets worse and worse and worse. But I've seen many, many guys in this league afflicted by addiction, whether it be drugs, more certainly alcohol, far more prevalent because of the culture of the sport that we live in. Mm-hmm. That has changed.
Yep.
That's changed a lot. You know, now, like, you know, before where somebody used to say, there's a rumbling. You know, no one would go whispering, but if you've heard a rumbling that there was a guy doing cocaine in the 90s, that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Where now that kind of adage may have changed a little bit, where the alcohol is now the demon, because it does far more worse for an athlete long term because it stays in your body.
Yeah.
Where someone may turn their head to saying, like to me, cocaine is like, you know, I think Scarface and Tony Montana. You know, I'm like, that's what I think, you know, like, and alcohol wasn't so much, but it's on every street corner. It does just as much damage. So I think a lot of guys in the league now have, I think through society have been deemed that alcohol is really bad for athletes now. And the problem I have with that is that, and I've been around long enough to know, guys are going to do something. They need a release of some kind. And I think that will be and forever will be an issue in professional sports in general, is the high the players chase away from the game. They're getting that high in the game. What are they doing away from it?
Yeah.
And I wish there was a great answer for that, or I wish I had that answer, but I just know the way young people are when you give them money in their bank accounts, time on their hands.
Sure.
And situations that they're not accustomed to handling through sheer wisdom.
Yep.
You know, I know that now because I'm 50. I have all these years of wisdom, and I've seen all these things, and I see young guys come up, and I watch them, and I know, you know, like I went and talked to the Washington Capitals this summer. They had me come in and speak to their 20-year-olds, 18 to 20-year-olds, their development camps. Some guys just drafted 2 nights earlier. And I shared with them for about 40 minutes. I was exactly you guys. Mm-hmm. No different. Heck, my first year in the league, I hardly drank in the NHL. Hardly drank because I was so focused on being a rookie and staying in the league and people, what they saw of me and how they perceived me. And I was totally focused. But I said the same thing, like, you be careful because, because you just never know. Yep. You never know how it's going to afflict you, because it's going to afflict you, or it could afflict you differently than it does somebody else who doesn't necessarily is adept to becoming or having a problem with alcohol.
Yeah, 100%. What I've seen too is that there's so much emphasis on recovery, right? It's like work versus recovery, like strength and conditioning. So much money and resources poured into it. Alcohol, as we know, is not great for sleep. It's not great for recovery, right? So guys are always going to naturally lean towards something to help with that recovery process. There was a lot of, say, ignorance and misunderstanding of alcohol, what it was doing to the body and nervous system back in the day, right? We self-medicated with it because it was the thing to do.
Yep.
Now there's more awareness and consciousness around it. But at the end of the day, guys are still in physical pain, right? They got pain. They're trying to rid their body of inflammation, as well as some sort of emotional, issues that they're dealing with. They're human beings, right?
Yes.
Dealing with whether it's the game itself or their off-ice issues, personal issues, right? So
look at Tom Brady, right?
Something. Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's a big emotional issue, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And he's going through a marital problem.
Yep.
Publicly, and his play looked like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that's a completely focused athlete, right?
Yep.
The goat of all goats.
He's a Jedi, yeah, exactly.
He's the Jedi, right? And we just watched him have a human moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So so naturally humans are going to need something, like to your point earlier, to release or express or whatever that lands up being, a management tool. And I think you and I have talked about this before. Your traditional substance abuse model is pure sobriety. I come a little bit more from an alternative perspective, but you're seeing guys utilize cannabis or different cannabis-based products to help manage inflammation, pain, sleep, and in my opinion, it is some sort of drug diversion model or harm reduction model where it's certainly better. Yes, you can abuse cannabis, you can abuse anything.
Sure.
Food, you go down the list of things we can abuse, which is anything around us. But as it comes to, it pertains to recovery and being a better performer, right? You're going to sleep better, you're going to recover better. And,
sure.
There's an element of harm reduction and drug diversion there. But, I just wanted to throw that out there and get your thoughts on, the modern, more progressive athlete versus, the old school hockey player.
I put this in the book. I said, like, I'm an advocate of cannabis from a standpoint of helping with pain. Mm-hmm. Reduction, especially in pro sports.
Sure.
Like, is it, when I look back at my career, I actually, and this is another one, I didn't realize how many guys actually used weed even when I played.
Right.
I had an episode, and again, it was in the book in high school, that I never did it. Now, I did since later in my years, but I was terrified. I had like something, I thought something was laced in hine school. I wrote about it in the book. Yeah. I had a friend actually concur with, said, I remember that. It was the first time I ever did it. I said, I looked at the wall. I said, God, I'll never do this again. and it wasn't until
the old devil's lettuce.
Yeah. Whatever happened there, somebody put a little hot sauce in it. So, I'm glad everyone has a little bit of laugh at the cannabis, right? Because we all, it is like one of those ones where you see somebody just smiling, and you can't walk through any major American city now with it. Every breath you take, it just runs right through your sinuses. So, but again, in all seriousness, like I tell people, like, if you had an option, if you had no other option between alcohol and weed, and you're an athlete, smoke away, my friend, because the other thing is just not, it's not conducive to what you're trying to do, both as an athlete and a human being.
Yeah, right. And the cannabis side of things too, it's no longer just about smoking it, right? That was like the old school delivery system.
It's edibles now.
It's edibles, tinctures, transdermal patches, topicals. You're talking about all the delivery systems. So and different ratios. Not to mention like that, because back in the day you get a bag of weed, and that's what you got. You know what I mean? There was no 1-to-1 ratio, THC, CBD, and all this other stuff. So
I had a buddy tell me, he's like, I'll tell you what, man, everything's different now with the way they got weed. Right. Because when I was a kid, I'd go up and get it off a guy, and he'd pull a bag out of his underwear. And he goes, $5.
Yeah, right.
And he goes, and half of it probably wasn't even weed.
Yeah, right. Stems and seeds and whatever else.
They've really progressed with that. But yeah, I mean, listen, and marijuana's everywhere. They're on billboards all over the world. I tell people, and this is what I do tell parents, watch your kids with those pens, because there's a gateway to that. I tell parents, if you see your kids with the 15-year-old kids with those vape pens of any kind, say something.
100%.
Be absolutely aware of that. It's but for a 40-year-old guy, enjoy your life. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Be vigilant of it, but I mean, if you're not a drinker and you want to go out, and people have dinner parties now with these cannabis. I saw something on a YouTube the other day. I was laughing about it, but again, to me, alcohol is the demon of them all, really, because it's just so readily available. It's on every corner.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, before we move on to some Flyers hockey, any last thoughts on your book, directing the listeners to finding and purchasing a book?
Yeah, you can get it. I was selling some. I may still have some, but I'm going to do some book signings. I'm going to bring some of the books when I go out to these signings. You can go to barnesandnoble.com, triumphbooks.com. Or Amazon.com is the best one. And if you have read it, leave a review on Amazon. Apparently it does something with an algorithm.
Okay.
That's not really my purview, but I've been told that, so I will pass that message along. But yeah, just it is. And, O'Reilly, it's just about hope. It really is. I mean, it's got some good hockey stories. I mean, somebody put something out the other day, about Lindros in the book, and I had to touch upon it because I play with him.
Right.
That's not really the point of the book. It's just kind of my how I cross paths with different people in my time here, and but that's not the message. Like Johnny Leclerc, we had a great relationship, some great stories. Me and him going out, and there are funny parts. There are some really funny stories in the book too. But this is a book about the struggle of a person, where I can't tell you. I mean, I can tell you, how alone I've been sometimes, or people may not believe that, but I was able to figure it out. And I still am trying to do that one day at a time. So if you are struggling, if you're looking for maybe a little glimpse of hope, this might be for you, because you just never know when that moment's going to hit you, where recovery has been eluding you, and you find it. And hopefully this might be the case for some people.
Yeah, 100%. And we appreciate your vulnerability.
But it's the only way to do it.
Right,
it is. It's the only way to do it. Is as I say, you have to get completely naked.
Yeah, you do.
With yourself in front of the world to say, hey, listen, I've been here, I've done this. It hurt, it was painful, but here I am today.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the version that I like, not perfect, but far better than the one that I was before.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And you by you doing that, just allows people to resonate with the story, connect with the story, and,
exactly,
and hopefully seek help.
Yep.
It is a story of hope. So I appreciate you being vulnerable. And
congratulations.
So, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
It's powerful stuff.
It's awesome.
Using your platform for good. Sorry for the quick break. Just a quick shout out to our sponsor, DLI Commercial, a premier commercial construction and building maintenance company offering support at every phase. Thank you for your support. Check them out at DLI Commercial for all your construction needs. Back to the show. Flyers hockey.
Let's talk a little bit about the Flyers. Off to a start, 7-3-2. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on Torts, first of all, what he's doing?
I think what happened was, when I look back at the team, it looked like the culture was broken, right? Like the team had injuries last year, but they had guys that were up, and I mean, they weren't competing at a level you want. They weren't being pushed to a level that fans expected. I think bringing Torts in, I like Torts. I said that this summer. I like the hiring of Torts. He's making the team, he's building back what the roots of the team are.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Compete hard, work hard. There's no more fighting anymore. I mean, they have a couple of guys that could do it, but it's not about that anymore. There is a progressive part to Flyers hockey as well that I think people are adjusting to. The league has changed.
Right.
So that, unfortunately for the Flyers and the model that they built from the ground up, that's changed a little bit too. But at the same time, you can't lose what you are and your connection to the city.
Yeah.
And I think that Torts is trying to bring that back. Ultimately, if they keep working hard like they are, they're lacking star power.
Yes.
We know that. When you turn on a TV at night, there's no 97 like Edmonton has with McDavid, or those guys that are going to be like, wow, we want to get out and watch it. They don't have that. So they're going to struggle with that in terms of people, garnering interest, but they're working hard, and those are the things that I said last year that I didn't like. I didn't like much of anything about on or off the ice, and this year there's been a lot more to like about the team. From a standpoint of them winning, their goaltending's been unbelievable. Yes. I mean, Carter, I know he's off against the Blues, which we'll talk about, but he was sick. But he's been the best goalie in the league so far, and I think the Flyers' record has exceeded what it should be because of that goaltending.
100%. Yeah.
But I'm not going to complain about it because I'm seeing effort, and if the players are there, the 20 guys that are dressed at night, I commend that effort, and I say good job by John Tortorella for getting this thing off in the right direction. The Phillies, again, the Flyers get mired in the middle of a World Series run, a good start. And, but I will say this, like, they lost 3 in a row, and I really thought the wheels were going to start coming off fully, because they're lacking talent in areas it's going to take to win long term.
Yes.
And, but they've kept surprising me. They beat Ottawa, who's a complete fraud. No, I mean, they are, again. Like, we were told they were going to be good. They have, like, the announcers up there tell you, like, they were getting their rings carved. And, I mean, Ottawa lost again. And and so, like, but again, it's Ottawa. You got to build some excitement. And then, the Flyers beating St. Louis, and our great friend Chief Berube, who we all kind of spoke to, they're off to an unbelievably bad start. But the Flyers just home cooked them.
They did.
And so they're playing hard. They're playing hard. They got a good goaltending from Sandstrom.
Yep.
Their team is playing well. They've taken away a lot of the middle of the ice in the D zone, and they've been resilient, in terms of goal scoring. Getting guys like Konechny's really stepped up.
Yep.
Scotty Lawton's done a great job. Hayes has had a good start to the year. Their D have been pretty good. Giving up a lot of shots some games, but for the most part, last night was the St. Louis game was, I thought, a good hockey game in terms of regular season, and they can't score, and the Flyers are a team that's surprised a lot of people coming out. But it's been, I think, a little bit of fear, guys, of the new coach. I've been there before, where you're like, man, I don't want to make one mistake because I'll be in the doghouse. So I think that's resonated through the locker room, but I give them credit. I can't say anything but good things about this team coming out of the gate and the effort that they put in.
Yeah, no doubt. You kind of alluded to it. Do you think that the Flyers are able to sustain this? Like, you said they don't have that superstar. That I think they're the third, the bottom of the league as far as goals for. Third last. Like they're scoring. They had 5 goals last night. Obviously, like they're going to continue to have to score by committee. How do you see this thing playing out? Like, they were giving up a little bit of probably more chances against early on. Carter Hart's making the big save. But you're right. Their identity's there. The culture's there. They're working. They look like a team. How does this play out?
Yeah, they're structured, right? Yeah. Like they're playing with a little bit more structure. It's one of those ones where you say, like, it's hard to say. But I think that the lack of talent is going to catch up to them when these games become far richer, like December, when the playoff push really comes together. Like, but again, if they formulate a team that works hard and gives themselves a chance, and that goaltending, I mean, the goaltending numbers are around 950.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's ever been a goalie that's held numbers that high in the history of the league. So, I mean, that may level itself out as well too, where you'll see some losses creep in. But from what this team is, guys, I mean, we're not talking about a Colorado Avalanche here, where they're got off to the start they're supposed to have.
Right.
It's a team that's past expectations for what we thought at the beginning of the year. I had them on. We did a thing on the podcast, Snow the Goalie, where we counted some of the wins and stuff that they had and losses early in the first 20 games, and I had them at 8-10-2.
I heard that.
And now I thought before the Ottawa game maybe they'd still be in and around that number, but not the way I picked it. Like they're beating Florida or Tampa, and games are winning that they should not be winning. They beat Nashville, I think.
Yep.
But again, I think they're going to exceed that now. I mean, they only have to lose one more game in terms of getting to, like, if you're saying like the 8, where they're at. So for the wins, but they've done a good job. I just think that with the loss to Couturier,
yes,
they have their third pair in defense. Again, the matchups become more prevalent after kind of American thanks, middle of December, kind of now. It seems like where the league kind of takes off and starts the heavy push. Yeah, I don't know, Riley. That's a good question. Do I think they're a playoff team? No, I don't. And I think there's a long way to go to get to that, for me to be able to say that. Do this for another 20 games, and you might have a full believer in me, but I don't know yet. I mean, I guess you can have guys that step up in situations, but it just layered down. When I go down it just looks like it gets too easier to check as you go down the lineup as the games become more meaningful.
Right. It's going to be a dogfight.
I think, too, that I know personally last night I kind of forgot about, well, I didn't forget about him, but like Coots is out. We know that 3 to 4 months. It says we're also missing Atkinson, JVR.
Yeah.
You know, you get them back. There's more goals in your lineup.
Yep.
It's not, like you said, superstar levels, but it is more goals in your lineup. So
sometimes that can work against you, too.
I was going to say.
You're right, because these guys are working their bags off every night, and you cannot deny that. And I think that's what Philadelphia needs to get back to. That's what the fans want to see.
But the one thing that we've talked about with Torzo is that I like is that he's put a culture back in.
Yes.
And that was what sorely missed, and I think that's what a lot of the fans did not like last year was the fact that the team was becoming irrelevant. Because of the way it was playing on the ice and a few other things too, but that was the part that fans I think really did not appreciate, and Torts has restructured it and brought life back into that.
Yes, definitely.
Any player that's rising up more than you thought outside of the guys you mentioned?
Cates he's like I kind of like his versatility. As he moves forward, I still think Morgan Frost. I just like them to leave him alone.
Right?
Yeah,
I know.
I love that.
Just leave him alone and let him play a little bit. He'd be the one guy. I guess if I were like an assistant coach, I'd tell Torts. I've seen a little bit. Like I actually kind of think that he might has a chance to surprise people.
I agree.
I don't know though. I mean, I've seen guys buried mentally their whole careers, and then next thing you know, he's 28 and it's too late.
Yeah.
I would like to just give that guy the same chance that they almost gave Giroux as a young guy. Just let him play. You know, there's nothing wrong, but
start squeezing the stick. When you get scratched, and then you're coming back in the lineup. You want to play well, but you also don't want to. If I turn it over, he's a playmaker.
Especially as a skill guy.
He's
exactly.
a skilled guy.
He's got to be allowed to make the odd mistake.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing the right things defensively, where the coach is not down on you for it. But he's a guy I like. I think the. Defensively, they've been okay. They give up some. They're weird. Like they give up a lot of shots some games, and then games against St. Louis, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
St. Louis is offensively challenged for sure, but I think that for the most part, they've done a really good job. They've gotten good step ups from guys like Kevin Hayes has come out well. Sanheim's picking it up a little bit better now too. He had that contract in the offseason, and I think D'Angelo and Provorov have played pretty darn well. Provorov certainly. I mean, he had 2 years where, there wasn't a whole lot going down. And he looked like he got caught in the mix of where the team was, but he stepped it up big time this year, and he's he can be a difference maker if he's playing good, and he has.
Yeah, I agree. And Konechny, we've talked about this before.
Konechny,
I mean, he's really kind of back to his all-star self. Bringing the energy. I think Torts is definitely getting the most out of him. Maybe more, but I mean,
benched him a couple weeks ago. Him and Hayes in the third period, and those are ones where you got to really be careful because they're the only two guys going.
Yeah,
we talked about that with Rupp. We had Mike Rupp on last week.
Yeah, it worked for now, and Rupp, he'd know, right? Like Torts,
right. He played for him,
so I mean, again, it's fun. I'm waiting for that part of Torts too. Like I never played with him, but there are guys like if you talk to, he's a very very polarizing coach, because there are guys you'd be like, I like them, and then there's guys like, do you have a minute? Like they want to bring you around the corner and talk about it. Like I mean, there are guys like that. So just a matter, and he will have guys form opinions of him like that on this team too. Yeah, that's the way it is with him.
Yep. I guess time will tell. They haven't really gone a long enough stretch for him to have the wheels fully fall off, right, and have the media fully all over him and his emotions.
Yeah.
They haven't lost like 5 or 6 in a row.
Yeah.
It was 3 in a row, and he was getting kind of like hairy there for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, he's going to say what's on his mind. I mean, even now, there's still guys when you kind of read the stuff, he still really pushes on the young guys.
Yeah.
And you can tell every night there's never any satisfaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
don't let it get good to you.
Yeah, don't let it get good to you.
Yeah,
that's the saying.
Yeah, that's a hard year though. Like when you're going like that. Like I mean, Hitch was like that. Like, you'd come in, you'd win a game like 4-1 or 4-2, and he'd want to break down how the other team scored the 2 goals.
Yeah.
It's like, just let it go, dude. We got another game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Did
Things
you play
happen.
the right way?
Yeah.
We did. We won 4-2.
I know, right?
Goals go in.
Oh my god, that's funny. Goals, it happens. It happens in the NHL.
Yeah.
One quick, Jim Montgomery, former teammate for a little bit of time. He's got Boston, the Boston Bruins starting very hot.
Yeah.
11-2, I believe their record is right now.
Yeah, and they had like a self-inflicted gunshot wound over the weekend with that signing of the kid where his name eludes me right now, but that was kind of like an unforced error.
Yeah.
And they've had to scramble out of that. Like a lot of the veteran players really stepped up. So they're playing good hockey. I mean, you keep wondering like when Bergeron and Marchand and Pasternak are going to finally kind of hit a wall, but they don't, right? Like they're still
Krejci as well. Like
Krejci,
he came back.
Krejci's back. Yeah, I forgot.
They're unbelievable. It's like, but it's almost like they do it. We talked earlier about another player, but you do it all year and then get to the playoff, or do they run out of gas? It's a tough year, but they are counted on so much.
Those guys do a lot
of minutes.
They do a lot.
There's a lot of great storylines around the NHL like this year in terms of teams, like because like with Toronto. I mean, they're just a. Everybody's hanging on them. Nobody believes in them. And it's almost like they're all waiting for another first round. Actually, there's a lot of great, like really great storylines. McDavid on a scoring, tirade right now. I think he had 13 and 13. So they'll be interested to see what he does. And who's a really good team? Is there somebody else that surprised people? Like the Flyers, probably the biggest surprise, I guess, in the East by the standings. I guess Devils for sure. Yeah, because I remember we saw the Devils like second night or first night.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. They looked horrible. Like it looked like Lindy Ruff was just playing out a streak, and then they've turned a corner. Their young guys are starting to play well.
Yeah.
The Rangers again. Shesterkin's had kind of a shaky start to the year where he wasn't where he was. Islanders look like they're good again.
Yeah.
Montreal's playing better than they were. Luke Richardson in Chicago. I mean, they're not absolutely horrible, but they look like they were in the tank for Bedard type of thing. And then the problem is they brought a guy like Luke in.
He's not going to let that.
He's not going to let them. They're not going to let that happen.
Luke,
so.
No.
He's a lot like Chief, right? Like those guys. So people talk about like Flyers guys coaching and stuff. That's one thing you get from Flyers coaches, players. Like they're not going to let anybody quit on them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why Chief has a Stanley Cup in St. Louis.
Yeah.
You got everybody to buy in really quick.
Yeah.
Really, really quick.
Yeah, no doubt.
I liked hearing Armstrong come out and say, this isn't our coach. He took Chiefs back last week.
Which is big.
It is big. And
you drop 8 games in a row.
I don't think anyone's blaming the coach for, losing 8 in a row.
Give it a couple more.
Unfortunately, you're probably right.
And I would tell Chief that too, and he would start laughing, be like, "Oh yeah, I know, yeah." But he's I mean, listen, and we say that because he is a great coach.
Yeah.
And if he got fired, everybody be lining up to get him. 100%. So I think Dougie Armstrong, who I know well, I had him. He was a GM in Dallas when I was there for a cup of coffee as well. He's got. I think they're just in a really bad early season rut, and they will find their way. Mm-hmm. But man, you could push the panic button in these pro sports leagues pretty quick, and so I think that's where he's at right now. But I think Chief's a guy that a player can like every year, as long as you're working hard.
Yeah,
he's never going to get in your wheelhouse. Just give him an honest effort, do the right things on the ice, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
All right, Bundy.
We appreciate your time, man.
Guys, thank you, man.
As always.
Yeah, I love coming on.
Best-selling author.
Yeah.
Right there, dog.
Best-selling.
There it is.
I don't know about that, but anyway, you know what? Like I said, I hope the book helps people and someone gets a meaningful message from it. The hockey stories I think are great. I was lucky I had a good enough memory. When they say you're doing a tell-all, it's not really a tell-all.
Right. Yeah.
There's other stories. I mean, there's a million and one stories, and it's a matter of trying to pick a couple of those really good ones.
The funny thing you say that, dog, is we could be just guys. Obviously, we wouldn't talk about some stuff now, but tell a story, about this or that. And people always say to me, "Fuck, you should write a book." I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, I know, right?
I can't do it. You know what I mean. You don't ever.
Well, there's a couple stories. Yeah, no, I'm live. There's a couple stories I told, like about everybody. I kind of went on questions that I put on Facebook, things that people would like to hear.
Right.
And like even a couple stories I told, like there's no names.
Right. That's what I mean.
Random,
of course.
But right. So.
But it's funny. But it's congratulations again.
Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
it's awesome, and good luck on the book tour.
Thanks, guys.
You do it all, man.
Yeah, the book tour. Yeah, the book tour is going around Philadelphia, guys, and one in Ottawa.
I
one
nationwide, baby.
Yeah, nationwide. Tell everybody that. Yeah. If you're looking, but seriously, pay attention. If you're on social media or wherever, you could follow me either on Twitter or Facebook, and I'm posting a lot of the book signings. I'm going to probably do most of them between now and maybe just after Thanksgiving into the middle of December.
Nice.
If some people want like Christmas gifts and stuff, I think some people may help somebody, a loved one or a friend struggling, and hopefully this book can help you find your way.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Bundy.
Thanks,
appreciate
brother.
you guys. Thank you.
A big thank you to our good friend Chris Therien, Bundy, for hopping on, joining us in studio.
Yes.
Pumping up his new book.
Road to Redemption.
Yeah.
The dog. Can't wait to read the whole thing.
Yeah. Me too.
It's interesting, and it's like you had said to him, being so vulnerable with everything that he's been through. It's hopefully it helps a lot of people because he really does. He does go out of his way to do that, and he's a good dude, and we appreciate him coming on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Obviously, hearing his story, it's not exclusive to Bundy, right? I mean, You hear this story far too often, but for him to come out on the other side of it and be able to write a book and make an impact in the community is powerful. So appreciate him coming on, being vulnerable, sharing his story, being open, as he always is, and honest. Hopefully, he can help save a life or two, or
for
three.
Sure.
So,
make sure you get a copy of his book. All right, Riggs, that leads us to the Clear Questions presented by our good friends at Clear Rum. Let's get into them, Baller.
Let's go. Baller, what you got?
This one's from Devin Petrowski over on Instagram. This one's for Riggs. Who was the sneakiest tough guy? Like someone who always flew under the radar but could always chuck him.
Jeez, that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone that I ran into was some bit of an established tough guy.
Yeah, for you, definitely.
But I say sneaky tough. I think we talked about him last week. Aaron Asham. I'd say I knew he was tough. I mean, obviously I'd done my homework and seen him fight. But this guy, man, he could take a punch like I've never seen, and he packs a punch for his size. Deceiving. He got the baby face. Doesn't look like a whole
baby
lot.
Face
right?
assassin.
Baby face assassin. But I'd fought him a couple times. Once in preseason where I did really well against him, and then I had a really good one in New Jersey with him. Where
that was a really good
man,
fight.
I hit him so hard, I could feel him going down, and then whoop,
and then he came back up
and just kept throwing bombs. So I'd say Ash. He's safe, man. He was legit tough for his size.
Yes.
I'm not sure, again, sneaky. I'm not sure if that's the word because I think people knew he was tough. He had street credit, obviously, but man, he was.
Any guy that wasn't considered a heavyweight that fought him usually found out.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, he left his mark.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So Aaron Asham is the answer.
Nasty. This is from our buddy Quinn over on Twitter. Can you remember a time you ever made a costly mistake as the equipment manager?
Ooh, man, that's interesting. I think if I did do something costly, I would remember it. So I can't say that I ever did that, but the worst thing that probably is always an equipment guy's nightmare is forgetting something.
Oh, yeah.
And anytime that it did happen, a lot of times with knee braces or braces, I remember times where one was forgotten, and it was usually because we had a bin in the middle of the room. I mean, this goes back for years. Whenever someone when you have two sets of equipment and you're taking one back and forth, like the knee brace, I'm saying, or a brace of any sort, you always tell the guys, hey, make sure you put it in the bin that's going on the road or going to the other rink. And it happened several times, but luckily we're always able to get it. It may have just been over at the center where, oh, hey, my knee brace isn't here. Well, did you put it? No, I didn't. I put it in my seat, but which in the end was my fault. But we always were able to get it. So luckily, nothing really bad ever happened that way. I remember one time, which wasn't our fault, we went to Atlanta to play. You were actually on the team that year, and they decided to tell me on the day of the game, oh, did you guys bring your whites? And I'm like, no, we brought our blacks. Oh, we want to wear our light blue jerseys tonight. And I'm like, well, we don't have our black jerseys here. Joe Seville was an intern, and he flew from Philly down to Atlanta. And I'll never forget Jeff Carter, when he left, he was like the first guy, which you were probably with him because I thought you guys used to come back together. And he goes, did we have black jerseys hanging earlier? So Joe Seville brought the white jerseys, white socks, and white helmets. And I flipped it over. He did it in between the time you guys left the rink and the time he came back for the game.
Wow. Thanks, Joe.
Yep, Joe, he saved the day.
Jack of all trades, does it all.
That was it.
I will say, Nast, you allowing me to use the Green Goblin might have been costly for my hands and my hockey career and my offensive production. Let me rock that ribcore, Reebok ribcore, whatever the hell it was called.
Like I decided what you could use. You guys decide what you're using. The Green Goblin.
The Green Goblin, man.
Oh boy, what a stick that was. Do you have any of those?
I don't.
God,
I thought maybe you'd have a
one,
couple
man.
sniffing around
I
here.
don't.
Oh, that
The
thing
old
was
Green Goblin.
special.
You gonna blame me for that? That's fine.
Yeah.
You did score on one of the best goalies.
I did. I'm not sure if I even used the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I don't know if you did either.
But thanks for ruining my career.
You're welcome.
This is the last one for episode 93. It's your boy Christopher Mayer. This is for both of you. What's your overall thoughts on the Provy and Tony pair, and how does the power play look to you guys?
Hey, Reg, you have to get that power play going.
Yeah.
Slap shot.
Get that power play going.
Yeah.
As far as the pairing goes, I like the pairing, what I've seen so far. Knowing Provy through you, Nast, and hearing how he's connecting some of the, to some of the new teammates, and having Tony, be there consistently by his side. I feel like Provy's kind of finding his game again, finding himself again. Power play always can use improvement, obviously. I think they can definitely find ways to get more pucks to the net, and just the same old stuff around power play, right? It's just generating more shots and more bodies funneling the net on secondary plays. I mean, I think you're going to score more goals like that. I don't have a problem with the first 11 games or so, but I think Provy's kind of back where he needs to be. I think maybe having no A on, might be a little more humbling for him, and just kind of helping him get back to the root of what he is, and building up that leadership role without an A, and finding himself that way. But I don't know what your thoughts are on
I love the pairing, and we talked about this before the season started. I thought it was gonna be huge for both guys to have steady. I believe they're a one pairing in NHL.
Yep.
And I think there's more to work on, obviously. Again, we're early, but you can't argue the fact that they look pretty good together.
Yeah.
And they kind of complement each other. So I'm happy with it. And power play, like you said, I'll let you speak on that more. You played the game, but you always can work on that, right? So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's gonna be all season long, right? I mean, you're always trying to generate different opportunities depending on the team you're playing, what they're taking away, what they're not taking away, where the holes are. It's always about refining, the puck movement. But not that I was a power play guy, but I've been in enough power play meetings on both sides of it, and just finding ways to get good shots to the net. And generally, we always talk about finding spray on the backside, weak side of the net, for those rebound type of goals. I think you're going to find ways to find some trashy goals over time by just again moving pucks around the horn and getting them to the net. But certainly, it's something they're always working on, right? I mean, never a day goes by where they feel content with the power play or the penalty kill for that matter. But it's a work in progress. Passing has got to be crisp, right? I mean, nothing worse than going around the horn and teeing up that one-timer, and it's not in the wheelhouse.
It's not in the wheelhouse.
And then you got to start over, and then everyone can see it happening, and then you got to start from scratch. So it's just about execution when it comes down to setting up in the ozone there. So a work in progress for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you are a power play guy now.
I am, yeah. For
Men's
sure,
league,
yeah,
you definitely are on the power
net
play.
front, directing the play, screening, getting some spray on the backside of the play.
Spray.
Spray. You got to get that spray.
Everybody likes to spray.
All right, Nas. That's a wrap.
That's it.
Episode 93 in the books.
Yes, sir.
Until next week, if you guys are enjoying the content, YouTube, as well as on Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe, give us a follow. Until then,
see you next week.
We'll see you next week, Knuckleheads.